Thanks. I'm going to put on my reading glasses, so too. All right, we're going to get started. I think the microphone is mostly so it's picked up by the recording. But welcome, everyone, to City Forum. I'm going to put on my reading glasses for this bit because I don't have it memorized. It's our urban planning and urban issues speaker series here in the School of Architecture. It's hosted, coordinated by Community Regional Planning, but all are welcome. The series is really intended to provide a space for open, critical dialogue regarding crucial planning-related issues in Austin and beyond, and to encourage discussion of diversity, multiple publics, and social change. So before we start, I just wanted to thank Ben Coe, who's our graduate research assistant, coordinating, facilitating City Forum for us this year. Thanks, Ben. Ben is the one who feeds us, so special thanks. We always have lunch, first come, first serve. It's so good to see so many folks here today. I really appreciate it. I know it's a busy time of the semester, but this is such an important issue. Glad people turned out. I also wanted to thank Ash Ashford and the rest of the technology group here in the School of Architecture for all their help with the recording, with the mics, getting the slides going. This talk will be posted online eventually on our YouTube channel. We will turn off the recording when it's time for discussion and Q&A, just so everyone knows, but the first piece we're recording. All right, I think those are all the logistics, except that we have one more City Forum this fall, which is Friday, November 15th. And that's author and journalist Megan Kimball's coming in to speak about her book, City Limits, Infrastructure, Inequality, and the Future of America's Highways. And she'll be talking about IH-35 here in Austin and other examples of kind of the implications and the futures of kind of major highways moving through metropolitan areas. So that's, I think, wrapping up, and we're going to move into our speaker. And I realized, I think I know so many people, I forgot to introduce myself, but since we're recording, I'll introduce myself. My name is Catherine Liebernecht, and I'm an associate professor here in the Community Regional Planning Program. And I'm coordinating City Forum for the next couple years. So if you have feedback or ideas for speakers or formats, speak to us, Ben or to me as well. So last spring, when I found out I got to coordinate City Forum, I asked my Sustainable Land Use Planning class for ideas about speakers and topics and formats. And on that list of suggestions was the idea to invite Dr. Marla Torrado. And I'm so pleased that she said yes when I asked, and she's here today to speak with us. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. Torrado holds a PhD from our Community Regional Planning Program here in the School of Architecture, and also her master's degree. So commonality with many of you guys emerging master's students as well. Her interests focus on community planning, planning research, and equitable planning practice. Dr. Torrado has worked in a variety of community planning projects alongside national and international communities for more than a decade, and she's currently a housing division manager for the Housing Department's Displacement Prevention Division at the City of Austin. So I've known Marla for a while and have worked with her on different projects around climate resilience and kind of equitable planning processes as well. So I know we're talking about the anti-displacement piece today, but Marla just has this amazing kind of breadth of expertise and experience. So today, Marla will be talking about anti-displacement planning in Austin, challenges and opportunities. She'll wrap up her remarks around 1. We'll stop the recording and we'll have about half an hour for questions, discussion. All right, thank you so much for joining us today, Marla.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming on a Friday, last day of early voting. So if you haven't voted, make sure you go afterwards. Yeah, it's really awesome to be here, so I appreciate the invitation. Thank you, Ben, for being patient with all the emails and sometimes my late responses. But yeah, it's very exciting to be back here and be able to share with all of you some of the work that I'm doing right now. And I feel like it definitely speaks to kind of the path that I had here as a student. And so it really feels good to be able to come back and talk to y'all and have a discussion, and hopefully it's interesting for everyone. So as Catherine mentioned, I am working right now in the housing department with the City of Austin, the Displacement Prevention Division. I've been in that role for, it's gonna be, well, with the city, I've been about 3 years now in December. Before that, though, I've been also working a lot in the space of community planning, affordable housing, but more from the nonprofit perspective. and also community organizing early on after I graduated. Did a little bit of that in South Austin. So today I want to talk about a little bit of the work that I currently do. And yeah, happy to answer any questions, talk about some of the challenges and opportunities. As you can imagine, this is a very complex topic when you're talking about displacement or displacement prevention. So definitely nothing here is black or white. There's a lot of gray areas, and so it's important that we have a space to discuss all of these issues. Oh, that's not the right, there you go. Okay. So first off, I want to start talking about why this type of work matters. And I'll answer that from kind of a professional perspective, but also personal perspective, because I think for me, at least, those are very much intertwined. So professionally, when I was studying here, I always was interested in planning in terms of the different power dynamics that it brings, and how there are opportunities and challenges for different groups to be heard or not be heard, and as planners, kind of the opportunities that we have for either making that happen or not happen. So it is definitely important, I think, as a planner to understand that power and those dynamics. So for example, why are we providing access to some communities versus maybe not providing access to other communities? Why we are developing in a specific area, whereas potentially other areas are not being the focus. And so knowing that there's an impact either way, and that is very, very important, and that can have very drastic repercussions, not only in the short term for households, but this could also have impacts long term in terms of generations. So displacement work is definitely not something that is unique to Austin. This is something that I'm sure you all are studying, is happening throughout the globe, throughout the United States as well. And it's really that process of people that have lived in a specific area for a really long period of time, many cases a specific socio-demographic group, and they start to be pushed out, right? Their options start to get limited, and they have to leave the place that they've called home for a long time. There's different types of displacement, direct, indirect, cultural displacement, which probably you all might be familiar with. So there's a lot of complexity that goes, like I said, into this type of topic. So there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of opportunities to work as a planner together with other disciplines. Definitely, it's not something that I feel like falls within like one team. We should be just like equity. It's something that we should be kind of baking into our planning processes to have an anti-displacement perspective. So again, just a lot of opportunities for collaborations. Personally, this is a topic that it's just dear and close to my heart. I'm a Puerto Rican, born and raised in the island, and I came to the US to do my master's, and then kind of went back again, but then came back here to the PhD. I'm still here. Here I am. So never really necessarily planned on staying here, but throughout my time growing up, I definitely was able to witness and experience a lot of displacement that, again, like I said, this just happens everywhere. So in Puerto Rico, this is definitely something that we see for different reasons, right? Some of them being different interests, sometimes coming from the United States, different companies that establish and kind of push out those that are that have less power or less of a voice, right? So this is definitely something that 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 I have experienced and feel a sense of kind of responsibility to be able to do my part in providing kind of a platform for those that might not have such a strong voice. So this is now, again, now going into Austin, which at least folks here who are in the planning school, you probably have learned the history of segregation in Austin and the role that planning and also the city, the government really, has had in this disparity. This is a picture here. We have what was to become 35, and we know how with the planning processes, certain populations were kind of dictated to live in a specific area of town with a varying degree or lack thereof of resources and other amenities. And this, over time, those communities who have been geographically forced to live in specific areas are now facing kind of a new wave of pressures. And this is nothing new. This process has been happening for a really long time. And it might be more drastic now that things are just like changing so rapidly. But yeah, basically because of different several factors, including development, these disinvested areas are now attractive and cheaper, right, to others who are coming in, and we start to see kind of that move, that push away of those residents who've been living here for a really long time, and then these areas become more attractive and also more expensive. So this really matters because as planners and now in my role as part of the city, and foremost as a division of displacement prevention, our goal is really to expand access to resources and opportunities to be able to create a better, more equitable economic mobility and household stability through various different ways, programs, initiatives, and I'll talk more about those in a minute. But I think we are in a very unique position where we as a division want to work alongside community, especially those that are most vulnerable or have the most need. And at the same time, we know we are, in a way, responding to a lot of the impacts that, kind of past planning or city in general processes, right? So we're a little bit in a middle position where we respond and work alongside the community, and at the same time, we need to work internally a lot to be able to provide that more bottom-up perspective to our colleagues in other departments so that they can also understand and, like I said, kind of bake in from the beginning and early starts of a project that you need to take into account other things that maybe before were not there on your radar. So our division, it's actually 5 years old this year. So this puts us back to starting in 2019. And the reason why we come into, like, as a division is that there's a bunch of different pressures or kind of comments that really led to the development of our division, coming both from the community and also from internal documents and research. But it was because of the Austin Strategic Housing Blueprint Implementation Plan in 2019 that one of the chapters talks about, and it's kind of what we use as a new division to kind of guide the work that we do, which is the displacement mitigation strategy. That document, there was a robust and very collaborative process within the city departments that looked at not only documents from the community like the People's Plan, but also other reports like the institutional racism and systemic inequities that the mayor kind of developed back in 2017. We have the Uprooter report that was done by the University of Texas. We have Anti-Displacement Task Force, which also was part of the previous mayor and their efforts. So all of these plans and all of the different kind of proposals or ideas for conducting work around anti-displacement, they were all assessed, and then the most important or highest priority, I guess, 15 were compiled into what is our displacement mitigation strategy. And so that was, again, kind of the initial roadmap, I guess I'll say, for the work that we do in our division. And so with this being the fifth year, and I'll repeat this again at the end, but we're excited to be working on a 5-year report that hopefully will come out in the next few months, but where we will be kind of evaluating some of those initial 15 priorities, kind of where we're at, and providing almost like a new strategy or a new pathway, because as you all know, as time moves on, also priorities and needs change, so we're definitely wanting to make sure that we stay relevant. So I'm gonna dive in a little bit more regarding our current work. So our division is comprised of 3 different teams. There's one that's called the Strategic Investments team. This team provides a lot of programming and support for tenants, so tenant stabilization programs. We have the Client Service and Construction team, which, just for simplicity, they mainly focus on homeowners and supporting homeowners, so everything related to the home repair programs and a lot of the federal grants that have to do with homes and homeowners and home repair fall under that team. And then the last team, which is my team, is the Strategic Developments team. And I will focus some more to talk about what we do. So under our team, we are a small but mighty team that do great work. And actually, some folks definitely come from CRP, so you might see some faces that you can recognize. But so yeah, so strategic development team, we have 3 main areas. One is research and policy. The second one, capacity building partnerships and community investments. And I'll explain a little bit more when I give an example for that one. And then the third one is planning guidance for other teams on anything related to planning projects or anything that might need a perspective, an anti-displacement perspective, or for us to be in the know, have a voice, and also provide some support. So definitely very dynamic and a lot of work. So I'll start kind of sharing a little bit about one of our programs that we just closed recently that's under the capacity building and partnerships body of work. So this area in general, our objective is really to work alongside community so that we can strengthen or make like wider kind of the community's knowledge of services that are available through the city. And it's a two-way, I'll say it should be, or how we see it is a two-way kind of communication. So it's not just us telling community, this is what we have here, take that and run. It's more of also us learning from them, what are the needs? Are these programs effective? Do we need to pivot? How do we need to make changes so that they're actually effective? The ultimate goal is to make sure that the community has the things they need to be resilient as much as possible so that they can stay in their homes, right? Or in their communities, to the extent, again, that we are able to support as a city. And there's a lot of challenges that can come also with just the city itself. But that's the kind of ultimate goal of this type of work. One example of this, of a program we just closed, it was in the summer, but it's called the Displacement Prevention Navigator Pilot Program. This program was a guidance from City Council, who really were interested in making sure that the communities are aware of all the housing-related resources that can allow them potentially to stay in their homes. There's been a lot of I guess, anecdotal or conversations we've had also with other nonprofits who have shared that they have met a lot of households who don't know or are not aware of, say, homestead exemptions, or seniors who are not aware of exemptions for seniors, even more, right? So these are definitely support that households, especially those that are most vulnerable, should know about, because it could definitely make the difference between someone being able to stay for a while and having to leave because they can't afford. So that was the main idea from council and the direction. And so we had a lot of support from council districts 1 and 3. So this is Councilmember Natasha Herbert-Madison, and Councilmember Vanessa Fuentes. And so as we are trying to design this pilot program to see what it would look like, we decided to focus on 2 neighborhoods that are from each of those council districts that we know are neighborhoods that have a lot of communities that are vulnerable to displacement. So we decided to focus on Colony Park and Dove Springs. And one of the things that we really try to do in our division is try to make processes as collaborative as possible. Like I said at the beginning, kind of being able to bring into the conversation those voices that for different reasons have been kind of quieter or more silenced in the planning process. So we are very intentional in many of our programs to try to include those. So for the application process for this pilot, we actually had community members who were part of the evaluation panel. So we worked with community members who were going to be hired as navigators, and they were going to be paid. We paid $25 an hour for the work that they did. And the idea, again, was for these community members or these navigators to be kind of the connectors and the bridge between those households that are in need or that might need more knowledge of programs that are available and the city, right? We also are aware that the city does not have the best reputation, or there's not enough trust. And I believe, personally, there are good reasons for that. Historically, if you study kind of the planning history of around the city. So we know that actually working with community, it's probably going to be better than if we have probably a staff member going into the community and people potentially not trusting them, right? So that was the main objective. With the navigators, we had between 11 and 13 spots for navigators for a lot of different reasons, mostly staff capacity. I would have loved to have way more, but we just couldn't. And we received over 200 applications from folks from the community who were interested in being a navigator and who thought that this was a good initiative. So we had, like I said, a very collaborative process. We had community leaders who were part of the evaluation panel, actually staff from the housing department, and kind of step back in those initial evaluations so that we could have, kind of a more bottom-up approach to the selection. So we ended up having 11 navigators, and it was an intense year, I'll say, with a lot of learning and a lot of wins, but also a lot of challenges and just lessons learned. And I'm going to talk about the impacts in a little bit, but really the setup was we worked with those community members, navigators, for a period of 3 months during the summer last year. We had weekly trainings every Saturday from 9 till noon. We brought in a lot of different partners from within the city of Austin who provide housing-related resources, but we also brought in a lot of partners from the nonprofit sector to really share the knowledge, and so that the navigators felt well-equipped with this knowledge. We also partner with some outside vendors like United Way for Greater Austin. They have an amazing website that's called Connect ATX that if you type your zip code, it tells you kind of all of the resources that are available for that resource. And they have a lot of different categories as well. They have food, they have jobs, I think, and one of them, there's a few options that have to do with housing. Housing-related resources. So we definitely partner with them. We kind of use their platform as the kind of the tool. And then after those 3-month period of intense training, the navigators were kind of out in the community, which looked like having specific office hours in a rec center or a library in their community. And or going to community events to talk to folks. And so they were able to really connect with people. So yeah, I said there were over 200 applications. And yes, we learned a lot, and I'll share that in a few minutes. But really, like I said, and I kind of want to stress this again, because I think it was very important, the success to the program really came from partnering with the community. So these that you can see here are the navigators. Most of them, we have our displacement prevention officer, Nefertiti Jackman, here in the dress, and then in pink, she's also with our staff. But all the others were the navigators. And so it was very important to partner and collaborate with the navigators. They are the ones who know their community the most. They really brought like a lot of passion to the work and a lot of care and attention that maybe someone who is not from that neighborhood might not bring, right? There was a lot of success and feelings of relief and fulfillment whenever they were able to connect some households, some of them that they knew, right? Because they're also part, one of the things, I guess I didn't mention this, but one of the preferred criteria for the navigators was that the folks lived in either of those neighborhoods. So again, some families they knew, And so that's where the trust came in, right? And all of a sudden we started seeing, and they would tell us, right? When they would go to their office hours at the beginning, there was no one, and they would just try to connect with folks who were at the rec center or at the library at that time. But as they continued to be there and their presence was kind of more fixed, people started coming, and when they weren't there, because they had specific kind of times that they were there, but if people would come, they started to leave notes with the rec center staff. Like, hey, I don't see a navigator here. Can you please leave a note? And here's my contact info. So all of a sudden, slowly but surely, they started to get kind of notes and information from folks from the community who wanted to talk to them and talk about the resources. So that was definitely a big win, and something that definitely let us know that that we were onto something, and it was in the right track. So again, I'll share a little bit more about the impacts and challenges of that in a minute. But before, I want to talk a little bit about another project that it's an ongoing project, but we recently finished doing an update. And this is the displacement risk area maps and dashboard that comes out, maybe many of you are familiar with the Uprooted report and methodology and maps. So the University of Texas was tasked back in 2018, I believe, yeah, to develop the Uprooted report to analyze within Austin the areas that were more at risk of gentrification and displacement. And it's a great study by one of your, many of your colleagues here at the university, but definitely professors from community regional planning. So it's a really great report that the city, after it was completed, the city decided, because it was such great information that we really didn't have before, we wanted to continue updating. And so this is the result of that update. We simplified it, the methodology. In the original study, there's about 5 different categories that speak to areas susceptible to gentrification and displacement. We kind of brought it down to 3 just for simplicity. We have vulnerable, active, and chronic areas of displacement. And so this is something that our objective is to update every other year. So we just finished this update earlier this year with the most recent census data, which was from the 2022, right? So this is another, and I'll just talk about this now because I think it's on point too. The issue with data and issues that are time sensitive is that you're always behind, right? This is the latest data that we can have access to, right? And it is 2022, and we are coming to an end of 2024. We're always kind of behind. That's something that is definitely a challenge, especially for a division like ours that is actively trying to mitigate, to one extent, displacement, but also try to be ahead of the curve. And so definitely this is something that we're always battling with. So we are the team who updates these maps, and this is important not only because it shows areas of vulnerability to displacement, but also because you guys might have heard of a small little project called Project Connect that is going to be kind of improving or expanding, I guess I'll say, the public transportation, and we're having a light rail, and it's just like a lot happening around Project Connect. And because of Project Connect, we also have anti-displacement funds that were approved back in 2020 by the voters. And so a lot of the work that happens with Project Connect and the anti-displacement funds have also been attached to the geography of these maps. So there is a map, actually, and I can share later, I didn't think of it, but I can share later via email with Ben the link to this dashboard. If you have not seen it before, it's interactive. You can look through it. The third tab there, it says citywide displacement risk. And so it shows you throughout the entire city kind of what the displacement risk areas are. This landing page is specific to 1 mile buffer around Project Connect lines. So like I said, the research that was originally developed by UT, which was excellent research and that we're continuing to work with, now it's also paired with kind of this policy direction that we are to follow this specific geography to be able to spend the anti-displacement funds that come from taxpayer dollars, right? We are using those in that specific geography. So talking a little bit about impact, community initiative, and because I'm talking about Project Connect, this specific work does not fall under my team, but it's work that we do, and actually we helped to develop this dashboard together with some CRP students, which I don't see here, but they were great support. But we are able also as a division, one of our main things that we want to do is be very transparent regarding our work, how the money is being spent, and kind of the impact that it is having. So like I said, the Project Connect kind of bigger effort has the $300 million for anti-displacement, and there are several organizations that are working for that, working under those funds. There's funds that have been used for the development of housing, which falls more under our real estate team within the housing department. But the more community-based projects, which we termed community-initiated solutions, because these are actually projects that were proposed by the community because they know what their needs are better than we do. So all these work is supported by those funds, and we have here in this dashboard, we kind of show all of the organizations that have been awarded that money, how much money, and you can keep scrolling to the right. Again, I can share this if this is something that's interesting. I think it's very interesting. You can see per project, like how many folks have been reached, et cetera. The projects vary. That's why you might see like some zeros in some instances. Some of them are not providing direct services, but it's more like workshops or classes. So that's why you might see zeros, because it's more like a cumulative number report that they provide rather than individuals. But yeah, in general, kind of the total households that we have been served by direct services, so we're talking here about like emergency rental assistance and other kind of direct service, over 1,000 households, which is pretty significant. We definitely provide some numbers or statistics on the different variables that make households more vulnerable to displacement, and this is something, I'll kind of go back real quick, that comes out of the Uprooted report. Communities of color, low income, households that have children living in poverty, renters, and households that are 25 years or older without a bachelor's degree. These characteristics make someone more vulnerable to displacement. So we decided, as we track our programs, we decided to keep some of those same, tracking those numbers. So we have how many households of colors we served, how many have children living in poverty, how many are renters, and then how many are without a bachelor's degree. And we definitely track where in the displacement risk areas the folks that we are serving, where they are. This is just some pictures of some of the organizations that are being funded by the anti-displacement funds through Project Connect. And they are just doing really, really hard work. So in addition to supporting and funding them for the work that the programs that they provide, we also, and this is something we started, I don't think at least our department has done this before, but we are providing with funds that are not related to Project Connect, we are providing each organization with capacity building and technical assistance support, because we really believe that in order to be able to keep those organizations running and that have, kind of are really kind of there for long-term success, having that capacity building is essential. So we are providing them with there's different options for capacity building, but they're able to tap into that throughout their entire grant funds. So yeah, I guess the last few things I want to mention, I kind of want to go back to the Navigator pilot and talk a little bit about some of the wins, but also some of the challenges. So we have some numbers there in terms of people that we were able to reach with flyers or in community events. And keep in mind this, when the Navigators really went out to the community, I would say it was between November of last year till like May of this year, so less than a year. They were able to assist 385 households, which it's huge, and then they spent just a lot of hours kind of providing that support and that work collectively. And I guess I'll talk a little bit about the challenges here. Like I said, we learned a lot. It was a pilot program, and we understand the need for a program like this. So we're excited to start actually a new kind of, without the pilot, now it would be kind of like a program next year. And we're actually expanding because of the interest that this had throughout the community, but also throughout other council members. When we start the program again, it will include neighborhoods, the same two neighborhoods that we started with, so Dove Springs and Colony Park, but we will be extending to Montopolis because Council Member Velasquez is interested and wants to also have the opportunity for his community to be part of this program. So we're definitely excited about that. And we see just a lot of potential, again, with working alongside community members that can work or serve as the connectors and that bridge and help with that trust issues, which again, I feel like are valid. And at the same time, we want to make sure that they are aware and that they know and they can take advantage of the programs that have been created for them that are there and that they should be using. One of the main challenges that we found was the emotional exhaustion that the Navigators shared. Like it was really, really, really tough. One, because sometimes they knew, like I said, one of the good things about working with people from the community is that they know the community, which also can be very hard because now they know maybe a household that they couldn't help, right? And so that was very taxing. Also, I think this came out as a surprise, or maybe they weren't expecting it, but they started to have almost like this in-between space where they are still community members, they're from the community, but now they have a little bit more access to the city and understanding the complexities behind the anti-displacement work. And some of these complexities, just to mention one that is very important, is funds and budget that we as staff have very little control over. But they could start to see how there's so much need and the money is being used so fast for what it's intended to, but it runs out. And so, which there's, again, just so much we can do about that, which is really nothing. And so they started to see the need versus the lack of resources, that it's no one's fault. It's just that this is the bucket that we get, and this is, once it's done, it's done. So I think they were not expecting that, and that was also very hard. And having then to face folks saying, yes, I get it, there is a program for that, and it has closed because it doesn't have funds anymore, right? So that was very tough. Another thing that was very tough, that it's a question, I think also for our division in general, is how do you check off like a household that has been served, right? Do you say X number of households stayed because of this program? That's a challenge, right? Displacement is a very complex series of processes or pressures, and the fact that we can provide housing-related resources, a household might need medical resources or food or other things that we are not necessarily providing, or we can connect them with, but it's not it's not under our sphere of control, and even then our spheres of control it's limited too. So how do you say, what can you say, right? So for us, it's more like, at least in this pilot, we were able to say, these are the folks that we were able to connect with resources. Now we know, okay, how do we close that loop? And as we're thinking of the second iteration of the program, we keep that in mind. How can we make sure that we're following up with folks that, even though they might not need housing resources, they really need this other thing so that they could stay in their home. Could we connect them to that, right? And does that mean they've been served by us, right? It's like it's almost like a case management, right, service. And so we are keeping that in mind, and at the same time being very, very honest with what we were able to do and what we learned. So we are excited to kind of be preparing for the second iteration of this program that will hopefully start in this next summer. But we have solicitations and vendors that we hope can apply and help us with this. And talking just a little bit of future work. Like I said, we have been around for 5 years now, and we'll be kind of doing a little bit of a look back and analyses of the things that we have been able to accomplish, and the things that we're still working on, which is also like a work that it's never, unfortunately, gonna finish, because again, of the complexity of displacement and all the different things that come to it. It's almost like when you think of medicine, you think of like different doctors for different situations or parts of your body, but there's also this holistic medicine where you can think about the everything together and how everything affects something else. So this is almost like that, right? Like thinking about displacement, just thinking about housing, it's a little bit limiting. So it's definitely under our kind of what we're thinking. It's how do we collaborate better with other departments? How do we collaborate better with other entities and stakeholders in the community, private, public sector, all sectors really, because it's really something that everyone can chip in a little bit, right? And it's for the benefit of everyone. Measures of success is kind of what I shared as well. How do you say we prevented displacement? It's very tricky. One of the things we try to do is to incorporate key performance indicators in the work that we do so that we can at least track the efforts that we are in fact doing, and we can show impact. We're also trying to incorporate a lot of more qualitative data that usually kind of gets kind of in the background, stays in the background. We feel like it's very powerful, especially in this type of work. So we're definitely trying to integrate more storytelling and more opportunities for voices to kind of be heard. And yeah, just opportunities are endless, I guess, for this. We really are trying to move across different and create different bridges and talk to different folks, and continue. Definitely the most important thing is to continue working collaboratively with the community, because really without them, and if we don't have that support, this work would be very, very, very hard to do. It already is, so we definitely don't want to make it harder. So yeah, that's all I have, and I am happy to open it up for discussion. Thank you.